I'm Holly.
And I'm Stacey.
And we are here to discuss the side of musical theatre that isn't talked about enough.
And we're going to cover all of the topics that you're maybe not so excited to finally announce on your Instagram page.
Welcome to Behind the Curtain. Well, welcome back, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for coming back for another week. Hope you're enjoying the podcast up until now.
Yeah, and we've got an exciting one today because it's our first guest episode.
Oh, so exciting.
Yeah, we are joined today by the wonderful Adam Strong, who is playing our Frankenfurter at the moment. He joined us
In Bournemouth.
In Bournemouth, wasn't it?
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
And wow, he's such a gem.
An absolute powerhouse, I would say.
The vocals are crazy. Isn't he just fantastic?
Yeah.
And he's just such a wonderful personality. I'm really excited to kind of get to know him more.
Yeah.
Get to just dive into...
Oh, I can't wait. He's just done so much. Probably got so many stories.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, I can't wait to share that with you.
Yeah. We love you, Adam, if you're listening. We can't wait to take you behind the curtain.
Let's go!
Hi, Adam.
Hi.
I feel really nervous and I'm not the one being interviewed. I don't know why. This is like... This is uncharted territory for us.
It's our first guest on Behind the Curtain.
And we're so excited to finally announce that our first guest is Adam Strong.
Hello.
How do you feel about being the first guest on Behind the Curtain?
I feel great. I feel like I'm on a little TV show. I've got my little This Morning chair. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
It is very much that.
We sorted that out, especially for you,
thrilled.
obviously, in
Obviously.
advance. So Adam is currently playing Frankenfurter in the UK and international tour of
If you didn't guess.
Rocky Horror. Yeah, we have to touch on the setup here. This is absolutely phenomenal.
Look, I love my setup. A dressing room is such an important place for an actor. You know, this is... And in this venue in particular, because the space backstage is quite small, I normally have my own area to get changed, just like everybody else does. But here we can do it in the room, because the stage is just literally behind this door. Just gives you, this is the place where you ground yourself before the madness of this amazing show. But I do love my people have sent me stuff. My wonderful cast got me my favourite one at the back.
Artwork.
This
vinyl in the corner?
It's a vinyl, yeah.
Love
It's the
that.
original one.
It's the original vinyl.
So good.
My friend Damien got me that. This one's unbelievable. Sue Blaine, who's the designer of the film and the show, designed my finale costume for me.
Wow.
And because she couldn't be here for my first show, she sent me a sketch.
Phenomenal.
That's so
isn't
cool.
And in terms of your journey with the show, so obviously you joined us a couple of months ago. We'd been on the road for quite a while and you were our exciting new arrival. And I must say you have been the most positive energy ever. Like it was such a lift when you joined. And it's not easy coming into a company that have kind of established their dynamic, I guess, with each other.
100%.
But when did your sort of Rocky journey start? How did that all come about?
Do you know what? So I got a phone call just before Christmas 2023. That's how far we're going back. I was on Aladdin at the time and I'd only just started. And initially the conversation was, are you free from January? I said, oh no, I've got another year and 14 months left on tour. They're like, no, January 25. I was like, oh. Well, yes.
Quite conveniently,
We never do this in the UK. We never do things this far in advance. I don't think.
Yeah.
I know other countries do, but certainly not. I wasn't expecting, and then didn't really hear anything because I didn't know what the vibe was. I knew obviously you guys had Jason Donovan and Stephen Webb, but I didn't know what. I knew he was going on his own tour. That they were very communicating really well about that. But I was like, so initially they just said come in for 3.5 months. Went and did the audition when you guys auditioned.
Oh, wow.
But I was on tour. I was in Dublin.
Isn't that crazy? I feel like the audition when you're in a job is just the most stressful thing ever. Of like flying trains, relying on it's just
impossible
carnage.
Because, and especially my schedule at the time, I was doing 5-show weekends, so 1 Friday, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday.
Wow.
Then they said, can you come in lunchtime Monday? And I was like, I mean, initially I was like, look, can I just do a tape? And then the team said, look, we'd really like to meet you because it's, it's a big role to fill in. We want to work with you. And I was like, I get it. I wanted to wear a heel.
Yeah.
Because I was like, but I'm in Dublin. I own heels, but they're not with me. So I had them sent to my agent. So then I'm running to his office. He's like, go, go, go. Like, right.
The stagiest story ever. Grab the heels.
Grab the heels, off I go. And the principals were just coming out of their movement call.
Right.
And that was my only time slot I had, because I had to get back to the airport. Went in, did all the material, met the team, had an absolute giggle and a ball. And look, I knew the show quite well.
Yeah.
As you guys know, I came to see you guys like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
And we were so lucky to get to be in Liverpool with each other at the same time.
The stars aligned.
The stars aligned, because then, I didn't work Mondays, so every Monday I'd come in and watch the show, and my friend who I used to go with was laughing at me because I'm sitting making notes, and he was like, you can't sit and make notes. I was like, I'm making notes.
I've paid my ticket, I'm coming to watch.
And then I had that moment, obviously you had the wonderful Stephen Webb at the time, and I was sitting 2 seats from you, you were noting the show, and I sat down, and I don't know what came over me, I literally was like, wait, this is the last time I'm watching it before I'm doing it, and that is terrifying. Because I didn't rehearse with people. I had the wonderful creative team, but you don't know.
It's completely different when you're hypothetically, and this person will then do this, and then you'll have this person do, and then you're thrown in the deep end, and you're like, oh, these imaginary friends are now real people, and we're going to do it. And we're sat on the
and let's do it.
Cape on.
I always remember when you came in that first day and we were putting you in.
The first sweet tea.
Yeah, and Steffi and Chris were like, let's just go for it. And we were like, okay, we're just going to go for it. And when them doors opened and you were like, how'd you do? All of our jaws were literally like that.
On the floor.
What the heck?
It was so brilliant.
So it was literally goosebumps. Like, it is... The nice thing with this show is we get influx of different people. Like, the narrators change. Like, we've had, like you say, 3 different Franks. Like, it has been...
Like, it's an ever-changing energy, really, the whole time, which is so fantastic. And you did just fit in so seamlessly. It's a joy to have you with us.
It's a joy to be here. I'm having the best time. And that's... You guys were so welcoming. Again, it's not normal. It probably is normal for celebrities to come in and out. But for us musical theatre actors... you get a contract and you're there for the end.
Where did you start with like going into the role of Frank, of like maybe like research behind it, and how did you kind of evolve into what you've created as your Frank?
I think I've had a lot of friends in the show over the years, and I've always been a fan of it. I'll never forget the first time I saw it back in 2007. I watched David Badella do it. In my hometown, and I was like, I have to play this role. Like, this is a role I obviously I was a lot younger at the time. There was no way it was going to be anytime soon. And I remember being at drama school, and my principal played Frank like 20, maybe 25, 30 years ago. And he'd said, he was like, I think you'll play Frank at some point. And I was like, I know. And he was like, it won't be till you're in your mid to late 30s. And of course, as a 19-year-old, you're like, what?
Yeah,
that is the worst thing you could have said to me. I'm furious. But in reflection, there's no way I could have played it in my 20s. Like, I think he's such a fascinating character. And having watched, Jason and Stephen and David and all these amazing Franks to take inspiration from, I think the beauty of it is he's so individual. I was allowed to create my Frank.
Yeah.
And what did that mean to me? And especially, as a gay man, a lot of the Franks over the years have been straight men who bring a different energy to it. I think it's such a queer show. And, for a lot of people, it's the first time that they discover their queerness.
Yeah.
Majority, all the men at one point wear lingerie in this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's, there's gender bending, there's... and it's just an iconic role. I think we all know and love Tim Curry, and creating my Frank. I've taken inspiration from a lot of different Franks while still trying to keep it authentically me. Yeah. The makeup and the wig. I mean, this is another thing I had a lot of input and they've let me do it. I said, look, as a mixed race actor, I'd quite like, something a bit curlier, something a bit, just a bit different to what you've had before. And they were so accommodating.
Yeah.
Plus, I was terrified the first time. My mother's got lovely, cute, short hair, a bit like David Badella's wig.
Okay.
And when they put it on me, I was like, no, I can't. All I can see is my mother. And even now, like anyone who comes to see it who knows my mother is like, your mother's on that stage. I'm like, I know, but it's too much. It's not for me. It's giving like Sharon Osbourne.
That's brilliant.
And I'm very tall. We need to balance people. If RuPaul's taught us anything, proportionizing, we've got to balance it out.
Yeah.
I'm 6'3" without heels. I can't have a short wig.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely
that.
not. You touched briefly on your principal at college and your training background. Tell us where your musical theatre journey began. Like,
Do you know what? So, my sister was a dancer for many years, and I was very, very shy as a child, and we didn't even know that I had a voice, really. And she was doing a production of South Pacific, and they were looking for the children to be locals for the 3 Northeast venues. So she basically forced me to go and audition, and my mother was mortified. She was like, we don't even know whether he can sing. Like, he's so shy. He's never...
you might humiliate us.
So I wouldn't sing in the audition. So then I started to sing along with the director, and then they couldn't stop me.
Wow.
I was like, can I sing you another one?
Oh, stop it.
8 years old, get the job, do the South Pacific. Well, then that was it.
Couldn't stop you.
Couldn't stop me.
So you'd not done any kind of singing like lessons
Not
or
at all. And then I trained classically.
Yeah.
So then it was more about I became like the head choir boy, like a school chorister, that kind of vibe. Slowly moved away from that. Knew I wanted to do musical theatre. Started I did my BTEC, and then after the BTEC, I auditioned for Any Dream Will Do, the Joseph TV show.
Amazing.
I was the second youngest, I think, in the entire process, so it was very daunting. Myself and Ben Ellis, who was one of the finalists, we were babies. We were the 16-year-olds. You know, everyone else was in their 20s, so that was terrifying. I'd never been to London before.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I'm in London, and I get to the boot camp through all the rounds, and it was terrifying. And then the next minute I find myself in Ireland in Lord Webber's castle, and we're auditioning for him. And I made it to the final 28. But honestly, the BBC and the team were unbelievable behind the scenes. The mental health care.
Really?
And because back then, I won't name other shows. There's other reality TV shows that were really bad at looking after people's aftercare. I know it's much better now. I know you have to go through all sorts afterwards, but not the BBC.
Well, I feel like even publicly, like mental well-being and stuff wasn't really spoken about that much. Certainly not in the sort of creative fields.
Yeah.
And again, it was sort of reality TV in the way that we know, like Towie or Made in Chelsea, all those kind of things. It wasn't culturally as integral as it is now. So it's impressive to hear that they were
So
kind
impressive.
of forward-thinking
Back then,
in that
yeah.
sense.
And they helped me get into drama school. They put money towards my drama school. They got me singing lessons. I got 20 singing lessons with the Stuart Barr, who's he at the time he was the president of the British Vocal Association. They really, really nurtured and helped me after the fact, because they were like,
incredible.
you're too young to be in the show. You're not a right fit for the show. But then I went to drama school, and the ball started rolling, and I thought, this is, and I did end up having my full circle moment. I did Joseph.
Yeah.
Come on.
I didn't play Joseph, but my main thing, that's another full circle moment here. We were in my first meeting with the costume designer, and we were looking at different swatches for different fabrics. And he said, look, we don't normally have cloaks made. We've got a backlog of cloaks within the show. He said, but you're 6'3" without heels. So we need to make cloaks
Yes,
for
I
you.
am.
So he was talking about the lining of cloaks, and had all these fabrics, and I was like, hold on a minute. I was like, I'm going to be bold. I can see a gold fabric there. I was like, he's like, it's normally lined in red, but why? What were you thinking? And I was like, I have to have my golden coat lined with gold, because I didn't get to be Joseph, so my Frank's going to have a gold lined cloak. So now I got my with golden lining. Isn't that mad?
That's given me goosebumps.
That's amazing.
And it just came to me, and I thought, I'm going to have that moment, because I'm never going to play Joseph. You know, it's not. It was never in my destiny. The Pharaoh was my
your calling.
My calling.
Into the show, yeah.
And I mean, he was the king of Egypt, and I'm Egyptian, so it's it made sense. But yeah, so that's a fun fact. So anyone who comes to see the show wants to see,
Look for the golden
Wow.
lining.
Yeah.
look for the
look
golden
for the gold
lining.
lining.
Look for the through line that you don't know exists.
When you were saying about like your sanctuary and your sort of pre-show rituals, we obviously have the gorgeous artwork. Is there anything that you yourself practice before every show, or just alongside your performing in general? I think a big thing that we're talking about with Behind the Curtain is the things that we do outside of taking class or taking singing lessons and announcing things on our Instagram. Is there something that you always make sure that you implement into your daily or weekly routines to kind of keep you going?
Do you know what? There's something that when I was on We'll Rock You, one of the girls had brought this to my attention, and now it's starting to seep into. I watched the Broadway Alphabet was mentioned on a TikTok recently. I used to take all of these vocal suites and you name it, I was taking it, and nothing actually helps. Nothing's going to touch the voice. If it makes you feel better, fine. It's not really a thing. I have a mint now and again. My main thing that helps me through is dry mouth spray, and I cannot tell people enough about it. You know when you need moisture in you, it salivates you, and I mean, look, mine is in. It's in a very camp bottle.
Of course.
Oh my God, of course it is.
I wondered what that was. I thought.
So that's what it is. So
it
I
a
just
spray?
have a little. I'm done. I have it after every scene that I come off for. I love to listen to my music before the show. I've got my little playlist that I put on just to
Get in the zone.
get in the zone. And then it becomes a bit like Piccadilly Circus in here before the show, because everyone's coming in. Sound come in, then you've got the Wiggies and come in, and then my dresser comes in. It just is
all action stations.
the good thing about Frank is by about 10 minutes in, you're fully ready, and you've got another 10 minutes to just. It's the first time I've not been a beginner in a musical ever.
All right.
Which is madness because.
I bet that took some getting used to.
Well, yeah, because I like to, and also I like to be ready when the show starts.
Yes.
And I think every show teaches you something else. Like on Aladdin, because I had a makeup artist. In fact, I like to be ready at the quarter. Really, there's no way. Jafar gets ready literally to the wire because you share a makeup artist with the genie.
Okay.
Got it.
And he's on first. So it took me months. I'd be like, they'd be like, you need to calm down. I'm like, I can't calm down. I'm not ready. It's 7:25. Why aren't I downstairs? I should have been down there 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Another thing that we want to focus on with the podcast is talking about the sides of the industry or the experiences that we have in the industry that are maybe not so glamorous, that don't make it onto the Instagram grid. And Holly and I actually met outside audition rooms about a year ago, and boy, oh boy, it was not a fun time. It was sort of like week on week. It was like, oh, I didn't book that one. Did you? Nope, that's why I'm here. Okay, and we move on to the next. Do you have anything? Mine is a pale rosé and a Domino's with an extra garlic and herb dip. That is one of my coping mechanisms if things don't go my way in this industry. Do you have anything that helps you through any sorts of rejection or redirection in this industry that you've had to rely on?
Gin.
Yes.
I love a gin. And for a time, it was all bar one in Leicester Square.
Yeah.
With the swinging lights?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because,
know it well.
sometimes it's an instant no.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's an instant, yeah, it depends what it is. But when I have had the no's, I've had an incorrect no.
Stop.
Oh, God.
And it was the wildest. These are the things that you will never hear, because I'm never going to put this on my socials.
Yeah.
There was a movement call for the final, which is mental to me. I've never had that as a.
Yeah, that's quite rogue.
And there was 3 of us left for each track. Very clearly, 3 people left for each track. And I thought, look, I'm not a dancer, but I went for it. One of my best friends had got a yes, so I was devastated. I thought, this is a massive job. It would have been my first big musical. And so I just decided, I'm going to go to Spain and
drink gin.
and drink gin. I'd been offered some gigs out there that I kept putting off. And I got out there on the Tuesday, I think it was. The office had gone out on the Friday. And I was in rehearsals for this gig, hating my life. And it was during the Olympics, 2012 Olympics. So there was a lot of like outages. People couldn't get into town. My agent was old school, so she couldn't check her emails if she wasn't in the office. Like this is we're going back quite a few years now.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get in touch with her anyway. But the mistake had happened, and they tried to rectify it quite quickly after, but they couldn't get in touch with her. So I get an email. I'm so sorry. You got it, and I was like,
Darling, I'm in Spain.
why am I hungover in a rehearsal room in Spain?
In a job I don't want to do.
In a job I want to do. I literally went over to the people. I was like, I'm so sorry.
Psych.
I got the first flight out.
I shall be leaving almost immediately. I do not want to be here.
God, what a roller coaster though.
We were talking about kind of things that people that are not in the industry, they're like, oh, you're touring around, like you're going from this city, it must be such a glamorous life, which we know
it can be,
but it also is not. Is there anything that you want to share to the listeners that if you're not in this industry, just like something that they wouldn't know about, or life on tour, anything that is just kind of
completely
a mystery to the people out there?
I know the answer to that immediately. It is accommodation. Theatre, you get given allowance and you have to stay in accommodation.
Yeah.
Now, it is harder these days because, we're in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And unless you're sharing with others, it becomes quite expensive.
Yeah.
You can't really get a one-bed flat for what the allowance is. And also, it might be awful. I was recently in Manchester for 2 months, and I was sharing with one of the other actors. He arrived at the accommodation before me, and I was a couple of hours behind, and he rang me, and I was on the motorway, and he was like, this is awful. And I was like, oh my God.
That's the worst.
And because there was another musical at the other theatre, there was also a musical at the Lowry, there was things going on at the Arena. How do you then get last minute digs for 8 weeks?
Especially in Manchester.
Especially in Manchester. So, phoned the guy and was like, I'm not staying here. It was damp. It was awful. Just not livable. All of this, I'm dealing with this the day of our tech to get into the venue.
Yeah.
So
Stress.
I'm phoning Equity.
There's already too much to think about.
Yeah, and I phoned my company manager and just said, look, I'm not going to be at warm-up. I need to sort this out because where am I going to live tonight? Because as soon as we're finished warm-up, I have to get ready for the show, and then it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So phoned Equity. I didn't know this, for actors out there, and you might not know this. You get 30 minutes of legal advice for free if you're an Equity member. So I think that is something that the general public certainly don't know about. They think we're in the Radisson across the street.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
And that's the thing, you want to feel, everywhere you go, you want to feel like at home. Like, as much as you can, go home, like the dressing room. You want to make it feel like a safe space that you can relax, you can rest, you can recover. And when you're then having to deal with Airbnb, or you're dealing with a host, or you're dealing with just anything damp, whatever, it's added stress onto it that is just unnecessary.
Because both sides of it, like this is weekly touring mainly, that's also hard. But on other shows where it is monthly or 2 monthly or whatever it is,
you can't afford to be somewhere that's not safe or not homely or anything like that.
The good thing about weekly touring is if there is somewhere bad, you have that thing where you're like, right,
I'm out on Sunday.
Can I cope with this for a few days?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But not 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Should we wrap it up with our 3 questions?
Yeah,
at
I
the
was just
end?
about to say.
Come on.
And those 3 questions are, in the last year, best thing you've seen on stage?
Tina the musical.
I've not seen it. I've been there
What?
for years. I've not seen it.
I'm seeing the tour actually next week.
Oh yeah, it's just open.
One of my best friends, I'm not even just biased, Zoe Burkett plays Tina at the moment. I got invited to her gala night, and when I tell you, I'd never seen the show, so I didn't know really what to expect. It's 3 hours, so strap yourself in. That's why they start a bit earlier, 7 o'clock. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, it is, if anyone's seen What's Love Got to Do with the film, it's so true to that. The songs, obviously it's a true story.
Yeah.
And the actresses that play that role need a medal it is the hardest thing I've ever seen, but also
Relentless,
the
isn't it?
most fabulous. And like, it's not got elaborate sets really. It's an LED wall or some lights and stuff. Not about that.
No.
Content of the show,
Strips it back.
unbelievable.
Amazing.
Love that.
Second question is, what are you most proud of?
Getting Aladdin, I think, was obviously Rocky was a dream of mine, but I think I didn't get it in town, and it broke me. And it was the only show that ever broke me. I think as a Middle Eastern actor, when the show is set in the Middle East, and I was the only Middle Eastern actor in the process at the final, and then you don't get it, it just broke me a little bit. And the main reason I say that now is because to this day, I am the only Middle Eastern man to have played Jafar.
Wow.
Which is wild to me.
Yeah.
That's a separate story. But
Yeah.
to get it, and you know, my father was just the proudest, because it's, you know, it's a Disney show, and it's part of my heritage.
Yeah, you
And
represented that.
Huge.
you know, singing Arabian Nights and all of these things, I'm like, this is mad. Like, this is my world. And just had the best time playing a character that. And I think as well, I often say this in a lot of interviews, Aladdin was the first time I'd seen anyone that looked like me on screen. So it came out when I was like 4 or 5. So perfect age to watch such an animation.
And be influenced by that.
But you know, you watch it, and till that time I'd watched the Little Mermaid on repeat, or Lion King, and you're obviously, Lion King's all animals, Little Mermaids, everyone's white, or they're creatures. So watching Aladdin, I was like, wait, that little boy looks like me. And my mother couldn't like get me to understand that this is, you know, normal. Again, everyone was white at my school, more or less. Like, there was only me and my sister, so it was just fascinating to watch. So full circle moment now, getting to be in it as an adult was amazing.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's so amazing.
And our final question is, if you had one message for any performer or anyone in the theatrical or creative industries, if you had any message for them, what would that be?
Don't take things personally is my main thing. I say this to a lot of people, you know, we all get rejections, we all get the positive, the highs and lows of this industry are crazy. When it's a high, you know, when it's the highest, I was at your gala, it was the biggest high ever. Rocky Horror's back at the Dominion, you know, to the lows of being unemployed or whatever it may be. It's not personal. It's you know, casting's not personal. It's a jigsaw. If you're not right for one thing, it may lead you into something. You know, we all get the yeses and the nos. So my main thing is don't take things to heart, and never stop learning. See shows.
Love that. That's one of my favourite. Like, never stop being a student.
Never ever, no matter how old you are. I mean, you know, our wonderful narrator Jackie and I and a few other people went to see Calamity Jane yesterday. You've got to, you know, keep seeing live theatre, supporting local theatre, and there's never going to be a moment where you're gonna stop learning, and it might trigger something for something else you go in for.
And we're always evolving as actors, and do you know what I mean? And when you see
100%.
something that, even if you saw something 10 years ago and you see it again, you're a different person maybe from when you've seen it when I was a kid, seeing Wicked,
Well,
and
like
when
you
I watch
said,
it
your
now.
19-year-old self being like, what do you mean I can't play Frank right now? And then, obviously, in hindsight, you're like, I know exactly why 19-year-old
I know exactly why.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I'd auditioned for it, for a Phantom, to cover it many moons ago. And again, when I didn't get it, I didn't understand that a show like this, you know, our Phantoms have to be so multifaceted, which within this show, I'm not. Like, I can do Frank now.
And then some, just saying.
But, you know, I was in to cover Brad and Riff and Frank and Eddie, and I was like, and, you know, our wonderful swings and Phantoms within this show, yourselves included, who cover 2 roles each, you know, that is such a skill in itself. I just didn't realise that at the time that so I was just
Like, what do you mean?
furious with them. What do you mean? But yeah, never stop learning, and don't take things to heart. And as we said earlier, have a I always let myself have that day.
Yes.
On a
You've gotta
rejection
have the
day, have that day. Tomorrow, I'm going to try and put it to sleep.
Yeah.
Move on to something else. There'll be something else fantastically exciting coming up. Communicate with your management.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a firm believer that if the communication isn't there, then they're not the right
It's not the
person
right
for
fit.
you.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've got such a good relationship with my agent, and it's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Makes such a difference.
It's not personal.
Yeah.
It's just business. It's not personal, it's just drag.
On that note, we could not wrap that up in a better way. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
It's
Thanks for having
been
me.
amazing to sit with you and pick your brains, and let's get ready for 2 back-to-back shows.
Can't wait.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Behind the Curtain podcast.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Behind Curtain Podcast.
And follow the link in our bio to watch us on YouTube. We love you so much.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye.